We're going to start by introducing Kuanting Chen, the Deputy Spokesperson for Taipei City Government, and he's going to give you a brief welcome, and I'll pass it over to Kuanting.
Thank you, Nathan. So I'm going to start with Chinese. 非常感谢今天所有的朋友能够在礼拜五的夜晚跟我们一起共度礼拜五的晚上。那今天这个 Global Taipei Dialogue 主要的目的就是希望能够让这些不管是外国的朋友们，或者是希望台北市更好的本国朋友们，能够有机会对话，然后创造出让台北更友善的，不管是投资环境也好，或者是生活环境。那接下来我会用念稿的方式，把我们想要讲的所有东西用英文的方式呈现出来。So welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all join us here for the first Global Taipei Dialogue. In recent months, it became clear to me that there are a number of areas in which the city government needs to improve its communication with the foreign community in Taipei. When I think back about mistakes that have been made without proper consultation, the Yubai debacle comes to my mind. The issues were not discussed with the foreign community, and hence a potentially simple change was anything but. The foreign community was left out of the discussions and then prevented from properly using Yubai. Thankfully, the issues are now fixed, sort of, hopefully. But ideally, they could have been avoided in the first place with proper discussion. With that context, I thought it was important to work on improving that communication. With an open dialogue, we can have a discussion about the issues facing foreigners in Taipei. And that is exactly what we are here to do today. First, I would like to thank our sponsor, the Israel Cybersecurity and High-Tech Association and Taiwan Israel Chamber of Commerce. Without their help, there will be no free food and no free water. So, we really appreciate their support, and for the first dialogue in this series, I would love to give a toast to them for their efforts and support. It is truly appreciated. Cheers! Thank you. Cheers. Very delicious. This evening, and after I finish my welcome, Peter Tsai, the president of Chamber of Commerce, will give a brief sponsor welcome. After his speech, Nathan will run a quick discussion of this month in the news. This will be used as a brief icebreaker, so all of us can get to know where we are from. Next, Garcia will give a full outline of the foreign experience using Taipei's transportation network, highlighting both positives and negatives. Following Alex's presentation, we will move into the discussion portion of this evening. That portion of the evening will be hosted by Nathan, our intern from New Zealand, and will be focused on hearing all of your opinions on the matter of foreign experience in Taipei. Alex will be filming this evening. That way we can have a video to cut and share with the mayor in our report on this discussion. It is our desire to create real change and share with what you have to say. This will not be our last event in this series. In the future, we will be discussing a number of issues in more details. There are a number of issues for companies trying to set up in Taiwan that we would love to hear about, both tonight and at a more dedicated event. I know there are a number of extensive restrictions that don't make as much sense today as they may have 30 years ago. Today, we really want to explore what some of the issues are and use that for guidance of the future. I'm here to inspire change, and this event will serve the purpose of making the city a better place to live and to do business. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then I'd like to invite Peter up to make his brief welcome. the sponsors welcome for helping us this evening.
Thank you, Spokesperson. Kuanting 的英文是什么？Kuanting, okay. And thank you for everybody for this opportunity for the Chamber of Commerce of Israel to sponsor this unique event. And for past 10 years, Israel Chamber of Commerce. By the way, I'm not Israeli. Okay, but for past 10 years, the Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan promoting, Taiwan and Israel bilateral relationship, and so until last 3 years, 4 years, then we see the government of all aspects in Taiwan's government seeing that Israel is one of strategic partnership in the world. So this is really honor that Kuanting invited us, and also last year we paid a visit with Mayor Ko for meeting with him, and eventually rearrange his meeting in Israel, trip to Israel. So this is we can see the Taipei as Taiwan's capital is leading the Taiwan to the different aspect and different entrepreneurship and different new thinking of Taiwanese, education, under Taiwanese education and stuff like that. And the City Hall has done really tremendous work, especially this coronavirus, and we can see the actually do very, very good, in this epidemic. So thank you once again for everybody attending this night's casual event, and thank you again for Kuanting and Taipei City Municipal Government. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Peter, for all your support in creating this event and helping us get to this point. So I thought, just at the start of this event, just to sort of feel things out a little bit. Maybe it seems a bit casual, but I like, if we introduce some casualness now, I think it will be much better later on when we're sharing discussion points about our experiences in Taipei and stuff. So I thought it would be a good idea to start with just a brief discussion of where everyone, certain people might be from, and anything that's happened in their country back home, not in Taipei, but in their country back home, that they'd like to share with the group, just so that we can get to know how we're all from different places, and we all come from different backgrounds and experiences. So is there anyone who'd like to share who they are, where they're from, and just any interesting piece of news? I see Matt, do you want to say something?
I'm Matt. I'm from the United States.
It's Steve.
Thank you. Matt, I'm also an intern along with Nathan. I'm from the United States. We have quite the busy election season going on, for those who aren't aware, but I'm pretty sure many of you are aware the United States is pretty busy right now.
Awesome.
Also, what about Taipei?
Oh, I think this is not my first time to Taiwan. This is my third or fourth time. I think that one of the biggest takeaways that I always enjoy here in Taiwan is just the compared to Washington D.C., the transportation system runs on time here. So I always find it convenient and I can easily get around.
Thank you, Matt. I suppose on that point, it's probably a good idea if I introduce myself as well. So, hi everyone. I'm Nathan. I'm an intern at Taipei City Government as well, and I was sort of the person who helped put together this event this evening because along with Kuanting, we thought it would be a good idea to just hear the foreign experience in Taipei and have a better dialogue with people in the city. And yeah, so I'm from New Zealand, the land down under, and it's a great pleasure to be living in Taipei at the moment. I'm really loving it, and it's definitely very different than back home. That's certainly what I've noticed so far, at least. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Anyone else want to say anything about themselves or introduce their country? Anyone at all?
Secretary General of New Parliament.
Okay.
So I'm going to, this gentleman, Secretary Chen, is from New Power Party, Secretary General of New Power Party. So,
Good night, everyone. 不好意思，我的英文比较不好一点，请多收我的台跟大家说。我是时代力量的秘书长陈志宇，那很高兴在这边跟大家见面，那也谢谢冠廷的邀请，那希望今天能够跟大家就是多多学习因为台北是一个很可爱的城市，那希望大家能够喜欢，那也希望能够借由大家的很多的建议以及想法，我们让台北更好，谢谢大家，谢谢。
Okay. Open floor. Anyone who wants to introduce themselves? Dick?
Hello everybody. So yeah, my name's Dick. I'm from the UK. I'm also interning in Taipei City Government. So for me, the thing that I found most amazing about Taipei actually is the culture, which, speaking to a few of you today, you had the same opinions, I believe, and it's how welcoming I found the locals and the foreign nationals here and sort of building a community, which is why we're all here tonight. So yeah, I'd say that's what I like about Taipei. What I like about the UK at the moment is not a lot, really. So yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, if anyone wants to introduce themselves, this is the final call. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Anthony Van Dyke. I'm here sort of very informally representing the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Canada, Waterloo, Ontario originally, and been here a while. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Representative.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for being late. Also, just a few words of introduction. My name is Bartosz Ryś. I'm the acting head of the Polish office in Taipei. I've been living in Taipei for almost 4 years already, and I have to say it's a fantastic city. I really appreciate everything here, especially the outdoors, the nature, and also the public infrastructure and the services provided by the Taipei City Government. So I just want to say that Kuanting, you've been doing a very good job, and please keep it on the same level. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Wilson?
Oh, Wilson.
I'll just say very quickly, Nathan is a really good example of a New Zealand intern here. So I'm Wilson from the New Zealand office. I've been in Taipei for 5 years. In fact, this is my final month in Taipei. 5 years later, I've seen a lot of growth and changes in public transport, so really look forward to Alex's presentation. But thank you, and it's been a fantastic city. So have a good night. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll go. I think I'm the only intern left. Okay. Here, okay. So I'm Eduardo Gomez from the Dominican Republic. I'm actually the only Latin American intern at the City Hall. And yeah, when I was interviewed with Kuanting, I had to mention that my country had just broken relations with Taiwan. And I was I was not gonna get it. I thought, but even though I realized that after I came to the City Hall, the possibility for Taiwan through Taipei to be more, to kind of ignore these issues at the national level and kind of break through city diplomacy and the same things that could happen, with being partners, officially being partners with the country, could happen through the city, through the initiatives of the city. So I don't know. We feel really like a bridge to Taiwan. We connect with foreign officials in Taipei, and I don't know. I feel like I'm representing the whole continent, the whole subcontinent. So it's pretty nice. I studied in Taiwan, so this is my second home. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else who wants to come up?
Hello, just call me Richard, and I'm the co-founder of the image studio called Studio 24, and I'm here because I've just been to Europe for half year, and I want to know more about how what foreign people think about Taipei. And yeah, I'm totally living in Taipei for 32 years, and I know a lot about Taipei. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, I think we'll move now on to the start of Alex's presentation. And after that, we're going to continue more discussion. But the discussion after that will be more focused on hearing your guys' thoughts and opinions about your experience in Taipei and the positives, but also the things that can be improved and that we can learn on so we can present to the mayor what we can help with to make the foreign experience easier for you guys. So, Alex.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you so much, Kuanting, for inviting me here to speak with you all. It's a much more esteemed audience than I was expecting. And let's just see if the pointer works really quick before I get into this. So we're going to talk about the forward experience with Taipei's world-class transportation network. I just wanted to give a quick overview before we get into the discussion about what could be fixed. I think it's a good idea always to understand really well the details of something before you criticize it. Next slide. So a quick introduction about who I am. I'm Alex Garcia. I'm a transportation nerd, currently working on a project called Taipei Urbanism that focuses on Taipei's transportation infrastructure for international audience. Most of my followers are transportation planners in the United States, a lot in San Francisco. Next. Previously, I was the community affairs coordinator for San Francisco's bike share system from 2017 to 2019. Helping bring that bike share system from 700 bikes to 7,000 bikes. And I served on a bunch of transportation boards in San Francisco as well, learning about how San Francisco works and how we could better improve our system. So this is just an example of some parking that I took away from these poor people. It used to be 4 parking spots, and now it is 23 bike share station docks. So a lot of the presentations that I gave in San Francisco were to angry audiences ready to fight me about how they spent 30 minutes looking for parking to get to this event. Next. So let's go begin with the obvious. Why do foreigners love Taipei Metro? And I'm just going to give a quick rundown of the system. Taipei Metro runs in Taipei City, and Taipei City has 131 stations depending on how you count the yellow line. And it's run by government-owned Taipei Rapid Transit Corporation. So tons of YouTube videos and vlogs. Taipei Metro always makes a cameo. They sometimes give correct information, sometimes incorrect information to their hundreds of thousands of viewers. But there's a lot of good comments on the comment section of these YouTube videos. Just, a lot of them are commenting that it's affordable, it's clean, it's better than a lot of the metro systems that they've seen around the world. They have great maps, friendly staff, it's bilingual, good design, and then most importantly, there are bathrooms in most of the stations. I cannot emphasize this enough. So many metro systems around the world do not have restrooms. So if you're in San Francisco or New York City and you use the restroom, get ready to spend $10 on a latte to go use the bathroom. So this is something that is actually really special, I think, about the metro system in Taiwan. And then this is something that I've thought, and I'm sure many foreigners in the audience have felt as well. If you're on a subway in Taipei, all you can think of is, why is my country not like this? There's 93 votes on that. Next. So let's go talk. I'm going to talk about the metro system and all the transportation system from this lens of care, convenience, affordability, reliability, and ease of use. So CARE. And part of the ease of use is the system map on the right. So visitors and new residents rely on this to figure out how to get around the system. And then on the left is the future plans map of all the expansions that Taipei Metro currently has planned. And this makes the system more convenient to more and more neighborhoods in Taipei and New Taipei City. If there's no metro station, then it's not very convenient. So can you raise your hand if you guys use public transportation in Taipei every day? Who does that? Who's every day? Wow, that is incredible that so many people use public transit every day. If you go to meetings in North America, it would not even be half the room. Even the people that run the transportation agencies sometimes have never been on the bus. It's pretty sad. So can anyone guess what percentage of Taipei residents ride public transportation every day? Any guesses?
30%.
So we have a 30%. Anybody else have a guess?
60.
60? Okay. In the back?
I'll say 60.
60. All right, let's go to the next slide. So, no one's quite correct. It's currently 49.4% of Taipei residents ride public transportation every day. That number drops 30% in New Taipei City. And the goal is to surpass 60% once all the Taipei MRT lines are done. So that'll be in the 2030s. My opinion is with your ideas, we can make that goal reach much faster. We shouldn't have to wait for every MRT line to be done. There are things that can be done before then. So I'd love to hear comments at the end of this. Next. So the current ridership last year is 765.5 million riders rode Taipei Metro last year. That's an average ridership of 2.1 million every day. That's pretty good. You see the trend line as new lines open up and new sections open up. The ridership has just skyrocketed. And Taipei Metro, we can also use EasyCard. This system launched in 2002 and revolutionized IC cards in Taiwan. And currently, over 90% of commuters use this EasyCard for the public transportation systems here, which really enhances the convenience and efficiency of the boarding process for transportation here. And then there's add value machines that are in 14 languages, and you can also go to convenience stores. And next slide, I have a question for the audience. So, when was the last time Taipei Metro fares have been raised? Has anyone looked at the fare machines and been paying attention the past 20 years? Does anyone have an answer?
1996.
Wow, we got someone knows the answer. Okay, another transportation nerd is in the audience. We go to the next slide. Round of applause for that. This was a trick question because Taipei Metro fares have never been raised. It's been using the same formula, the distance-based formula, of 66 cents USD to $2.16 USD since the founding of the Wendu line in 1996. So obviously with inflation, that means the metro system has been getting cheaper over time. And then also, the only things that have changed are the EasyCard, as you might know. It used to be a universal 20% discount. The goal was to get more people to use IC cards. But as of this year, they realized 90% of people have EasyCard already, so why are we doing that? And now Taipei Metro is giving a discount based on the number of times you ride, up to 30%. So if you ride over 51 times a month, you will get a refund the next month of 30%, which I think is a great system for psychologically encouraging people to ride the Metro more. Launched in 2018. The All Pass ticket includes unlimited MRT, unlimited buses, and unlimited bike share. It tries to replicate the psychology of sunk cost. So let's say you bought a car or a scooter. You want to use that scooter as much as possible to get your money's worth, right? You just spent money on this thing. It's the same thing. I bought the unlimited pass at the beginning of the month. I'm going to ride the bus, the MRT, and bike share, even if I don't need to, even if it's just like one block, I'm going to ride that bus because I paid for this pass. And so that bus is now my limo, right? So it's a great psychology, this program, but it is a little bit pricey, right? It's 45 USD a month. And so there has been conversations, and I'd love to hear people's opinion as well, about a zone system, right? So if you just want unlimited in Taipei, or in New Taipei, maybe it could be cheaper. And that has been rumored in the media as well, but only in Chinese. So it'd be great to have foreigner perspective as well. So their train arrival information on the mezzanine level and the platform level. This was changed about last year. They have this larger section. It's really cute with the reindeer, and it's Chinese and English. All right. The old system, again, it just alternates between Chinese and English. And if you're on the MRT, there's a little LED screen. Same with the buses. Sometimes you have to wait for 5 different messages before it gets back to English. So if you don't read both, it's probably kind of nerve-inducing. So this is definitely a gold standard where you have the Chinese and English at the same time. That is the gold standard for design on this. So Taipei Metro is also frequent in transportation. The concept of frequency is freedom. So if you don't need to think about transportation or when the next train is coming, that is a reliable transportation service for your day-to-day needs. These are the headways during peak hours. Again, you're never going to wait, usually, the headways of 4 minutes and 2 minutes. Usually arrive at the station in between one train leaving and another train leaving. So you'll most likely wait 50% of the time, 2 minutes or less during peak time. And then for non-peak time, it's 5-minute headways, so you probably wait around 3 minutes, average time. Next. And so it's one thing to have promise service that's frequent. So in San Francisco, the train is supposed to come, every few minutes during rush hour, but sometimes it could be the next hour because the switch broke at Boston Church or something. That's one of the switches for the metro line. And so the train will not come, and you have to walk to work 30 minutes. And that's happened 4 times already, and it's only March 6th, right? So Taipei Metro has 99% reliability, except in 2010 where something happened on the Brown Line. We don't talk about that. But 99% reliability, and that is pretty good. You have metro systems from around the world. I think Busan visited recently, trying to learn from Taipei Metro how do you institute standard operating procedures that lead to this level of reliability. Again, Taipei Metro is very new. It's 1996. We're almost the same age. And so, we're still both young and healthy. Eventually, we will get older. So keeping the standard operating procedures to keep this reliability is what will keep the metro system world-class system. So platform wayfinding is also really important for ease of use. This was implemented in 2017 in preparation for the International College University. I can't pronounce that word. But this cost about $1 million to implement a color and numbering system. So for folks that don't know Chinese, you can now say G16 instead of Nanjing Fuxing, right? That's kind of long for people who have never heard Chinese before. Next one. And these are also really helpful. They're on the platforms. And if you've never been to a new city and you're running to the platform and the train is arriving, you don't know if it's going the right direction a lot of the times. And so this is pretty genius where it's faded out and you can kind of figure out which direction it's going. I've missed so many trains in other cities around the world because I just don't want to hop on that train. I've been on a train in New York City, and it was an express train that traveled 60 blocks, and that was the next stop. So you're on that train for the next 20 minutes, and then you have to take a local train for the next hour and a half to get back to where you started. So this is really a huge user interface and convenience thing, having this, even though there's no express trains on the Taipei Metro. Transfer wayfinding. Some transfers are easy. You just walk across. Other transfers are more difficult. You have to go up escalators. And I'd say the worst transfers are the Brown Line. Right? I think someone else mentioned the Brown Line. If you want to get a stair workout, you want to do the transfer from the Green Line to the Brown Line. And if you're running late, you're really getting that workout. So that's one of those things where it was the first line. They made it an elevated line. It was cheaper. It didn't require any tunneling. And now we're paying the price, right? So maybe one day the Brown Line will be redone, but don't hold your breath on that. It's not any of the plans. And then lastly, exit wayfinding is so critical. I know metro systems in Japan and Korea all have these numbering systems, but a lot of metro systems in North America, they have numbers, but they like to keep the numbers a secret. So they'll have number exit 1, and the signs will all point you there, and then when you go to the outdoor exit, it doesn't have a number on the outdoor exit, so you kind of don't know if you actually made it there or not. And so this is also another sort of wayfinding ease of using that is so crucial. All right, cool. So that was the Taipei MRT system. Sorry, that's the longest section. I hate just talking nonstop. But I hope thinking about the things that contribute to convenience, affordability, reliability, ease of use with the Taipei Metro system can help you think about what you want to improve. So now that you know what's going well, start thinking about maybe what isn't going well, what transfers aren't, what experiences from friends that are visited, family that have visited that could be improved for the Taipei Metro system. We'll talk about that at the end. So U-Bike, so why do foreigners love U-Bike except when they accidentally ban us from U-Bike? Next slide. A big reason for people loving U-Bike is the station coverage. Pretty much every neighborhood in Taipei has a bike share station. As of 2018, there were over 400 bike share stations in Taipei. And as someone that used to work in bike share, the places that most need a bike share station are the ones that have the most difficult transportation problems already. So there's no parking, there's traffic, there's a lot of issues. And so converting these moped parking spots, whoever had to do this job, knock on that business's door, bless their heart, it's really tough. Talking to a mom and pop shop owner that's had their store for 30 years, hasn't seen any changes on the street, and all of a sudden you're saying, we're going to put this bike share station in front of your business. But it's crucial to have them in business districts, next to recreational facilities, next to MRT stations. That's what gets you a usable bike share system. Next. So the sign-up process is also really key. You can now play the video that Nathan helps film for us. This is the new process after they fix the foreign ID issue. that was in the news a few months ago?
Except. Waiting. Continue. Okay.
So do you guys see those three options up there?
Or none of the above. So it has been updated.
So there you go. That is your proof that the issue has been fixed thanks to all the noise that the foreign community made, and thanks to Kuanting's office for listening and passing on that message to the Department of Transportation. A lot of cities around the world have varying policies on how they treat tourists, right? People that don't have resident visa numbers. So Barcelona doesn't let anybody that doesn't have a residence use the bike share system. The Bay Area, we allow people to use it, but they can't sign up with a kiosk. They have to use the credit card method only. So visitors could use an app. So there are a lot of ways to approach this issue. It's a really complicated one, but being able to use the bike share system with, next slide, Easy Card is so crucial. When the system first launched in 2009, it used to require anybody to use a credit card to sign up, and very few people signed up. There's one, Chinese people don't like using credit cards. I don't know if they trust it or what the deal is, but yeah, they used to require credit cards, and they quickly removed that requirement. And so the fact that they almost made the foreign community that didn't have ID cards use credit cards again was like repeating a mistake that they learned 10 years ago. So the average fare right now for the first 30 minutes of every bike share ride is 17 cents USD or 5 NTD. That's a 5 NTD subsidy from Taipei City Government. And before it used to be free, but it was using like national and EPA grants, and that dried up. In the United States, even if you account for just power purchasing differences, so this would be 40 cents USD if you account for the purchasing power difference, it's about $3 for each bike share trip. So this is still incredibly subsidized and affordable compared to bike share systems around the world. And you can't just put a bike share station on the moon and expect people to get to it. So here is the magic of living in Taipei, is the incredible bike infrastructure. So sidewalk bike lanes, so love them or hate them. They make biking a lot safer to get from one bike share station to the other. Bike lane markings and crosswalks. So these are supposed to remind motorists that there are bikes crossing, but with intersections, there's a lot more that can be improved. Yeah, in terms of safety. I'm going to leave it at that. I'll let everyone else chime in on that. But it's a great thought. I think it's a great, the intention was good with this. Next. Bike highways. I would love to see more of these kinds of bike infrastructure where you could travel long distances at a really quick pace on a bike. You can't do that on a lot of Taipei still. You can bike anywhere safely on the bike paths, but there's people playing Pokemon Go in the bike lane, or doing a whole bunch of different things on the bike lane that you'd never see in a lot of places. And Taipei has, so on that note, Taipei has been adding more sidewalk cycle tracks. So not just paint on a wide sidewalk. So you can see this one along the went-through line. It's very fitting that one of their first big experiments of this kind of cycle track is next to the first metro line. And it's a great version 1, I'll put it that way. There's so much more that can be improved, but it's a really great start. I used to use this every day when I was working near NTU. Next. And then bike parking. There's safety in numbers when it comes to biking, and Taipei has been installing tens of thousands of bike racks in the past decade. So if we look at the next slide, there's 42,000 bike racks as of 2018. And if you go to the next one, it used to be just 9,000. And there used to be 11 bike share stations in 2009. So 11 to 400, 9,000 to 42,000. These are good trend lines to be seen with the bike network. And then also going from 120 kilometers to 390 kilometers of bike facilities. But I don't know what they mean by bike facilities, so I'm not going to go too much into the depth in there. And then last year's bike share ridership was 26.2 million. 26.2 million on U-Bike, just in Taipei, not New Taipei. Great, so I finished the bike share part. This is the last one before it gets a little bit more Q&A. This is Taipei's rapid bus network, next one. And this is the mainline rapid bus network, which was launched a few years ago with the promise of more frequent and reliable service with the brand, right? They have a little logo, and they use a lot of the bus lanes that are in Taiwan, or in Taipei. Next one. So can anyone guess, this is probably way too difficult of a question, so maybe someone in the audience. Which bus lane in Taipei has the most bus passengers? Does anyone know?
307?
Not the bus number,
Okay.
the road name. So, Roosevelt Road? Who said that? Oh my god, how are people getting this answer? It's ridiculous.
I used to live right next to it.
Okay, so he used to live next to Roosevelt Road, so, and I knew about it because I used to, get into you. So go to the next slide. 82.9 million bus passengers used Roosevelt Road bus lanes in 2018. There is only about 700 million people that use the whole MRT system. So the fact that one bus lane is using 82.9 million passengers should make us think that we should be building more bus lanes, right? So if we go to the next slide, you'll see a quick time lapse of that bus lane. So again, look at all those buses not having to wait in traffic. This is for any transportation engineer. This is beautiful to see. Anyway, next slide. So here are some of the bus lanes in Taiwan, in Taipei. Sini Road, Nanjing East Road, Zhongxia West Road, the years that they were enforced, and then the ridership. So you see 50 million on Sini, 86 on Nanjing East Road, and there's many more bus lanes also in Taipei. Next one. And then this year there was a big improvement for ease of use. It used to be kind of like a puzzle every time you went on a bus. Do you swipe on? Do you swipe off? Do you swipe off before you get off? Like, it was really confusing. It had this like really cool sign that like where there was shang or xia, right? And you just had to like pay attention as it changed. So they finally made it consistent with the MRT system. Just you swipe on and swipe off no matter what, and you don't have to think about what bus line you're on, what bus stop you're at. And so this was a huge improvement. And you might have noticed that the first slide I didn't say why do foreigners love the bus system, because I don't really hear that as often. And that was part of the reason. It was just so difficult to figure out how to pay for the bus. So the average bus fare in Taipei is 50 cents USD. And that's pretty much my overview of the metro, U-Bike, and bus system. So I hope that helps you give an idea of just where we're starting out at. And I'm going to ask a few questions about why does transportation matter in the first place, about climate change, public health, and Taiwan soft power. And I'd love for you all to participate as much as you'd like. And then after that's finished, some recent projects that have been done to improve the transportation system, and then it's just discussion led by Nathan. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Yep. So the first question that I'd like to posit to you all, and I really need your position here, is why do you think Taipei's transportation system might matter for public health? So before we even think about the discussion of improving the transportation system, why does it matter to public health? And maybe let's find 3 or 4 people that want to just give a little blurb.
Well, if more people use public transportation, then there would be less CO2 emissions in the air because people wouldn't be like driving cars. Yeah.
Great answer. There's no right or wrong answers, so anybody else want to contribute on this side of the room? Let's be quiet here. All right. Hopefully this mic still works back here.
There'll be less car accident.
That's a really good answer. A lot of people don't think about the number one killer of a lot of people under 30 is traffic violence.
More friendly conversations in the morning. Or evening.
So do you talk to strangers on the metro? I just want to understand more.
I don't know. It can be a friendly communal experience. That's fine.
It's true. The nicest people, as soon as they get behind the wheel of an SUV, I don't know what it is. Any other folks on this side? John, you look intrigued.
I was going to say, less traffic incidents, but also taking public transit involves a bit more walking than going to and from your car. So you may have to walk to the MRT, or you may walk to the U-Bike, or riding a U-Bike is healthier than standing on the MRT or driving a car.
Great, so those are some really good answers. Do you have any other ones that you're dying to answer this one? Okay, I'll go back there.
To present something on the opposite side, public transportation can be a vector for disease, as we're seeing with COVID-19 and anything else that you might have easily transferred from person to person. So it's kind of a weakness that the city should think about.
That is a really great point. And on our Twitter account at Taipei Urbanism, we have a really long thread about all the postings that the transit agencies have been posting about how to prevent the spread on metro, on the bus, and analyzing like, what is that messaging? Is it working, and should we use that in the United States? I'm starting to see very similar videos in the United States, basically the same as Taiwan's, just warning people to wash hands, wear masks, stuff like that. So I think that's a really good point. Public transit is transit with the people, you're not just in your car alone. So there is some risk associated with it. Great, so a lot of people brought up great points about why public transportation is related to public health. This is a story of two cities, one that is fully car-centric, and then one that is more transportation-focused. It costs a lot of money to build wide roads. It costs a lot of money to build parking lots in downtown. And people don't walk in places that are super sprawled. So if you go to the next slide, you only really need 30 minutes of physical activity to start seeing a big impact on health, such as obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension. And people that live in cities that use public transportation, they easily meet the 30 minutes of walking just doing that transfer from the green line to the brown line. Or any sort of walking to and from the public transportation station. They're getting these targets. But a lot of studies have been done in other cities like my hometown of San Diego, where the only walking you do throughout the day is to and from the parking lot, and then pacing in your cubicle, right? You don't really hit the 30 minutes, and we're starting to see really big impacts on public health via stress, via obesity, and via just sedentary lifestyles that you get when you don't live in a city that makes walking comfortable. So again, someone did mention traffic crashes. This is an crash near my house, near Taipei Arena. Somebody hit an ambulance. So if we go to the next slide, you'll quickly see just the stats here in Taipei. So per 100,000 vehicles in Taipei, you'll see about 4.3 deaths. I like to stress that correlation is not equal causation, but it is well known that there are many associations with the number of vehicles you have in a city and negative externalities such as speeding, drinking and driving, and other sort of dangers of driving a vehicle. And then as a whole, Taipei has a road death rate of 2.8 people per 100,000 residents. So in 2018, 76 people died from traffic violence. Noise pollution is something that a lot of people don't bring up, but it will make a huge difference. Have you ever walked along the main roads in Taipei after clubbing? It's just so much more peaceful, right? You can hear your thoughts. But if you are walking with a friend along a main road during rush hour, you have to shout, you have to yell. And so there are a lot of impacts to that on human health. One of them is obviously hearing, right? You're yelling at your friend and it's impacting your hearing. And then there's less obvious impacts on hypertension, cardiovascular disease. And then for kids, they're especially impacted as they grow up. They're constantly exposed to noise pollution that impacts cognitive development. And so that's something that it's been brought up by the World Health Organization and UN. How do we reduce noise pollution, especially for folks that have to live next to freeways or busy roads? They have no way to turn off the sound. And then air pollution actually isn't that big of a deal when it comes to road emissions. Here's from New Taipei City, the environmental department, and they published this chart in these colors, so don't blame me for this. But vehicles are really, I'm not going to use this chart, but vehicles are just a small portion of the air pollution, and there are bigger fish to fry when it comes to air pollution than transport. All right, so next question. Why do you think Taipei's transportation system might matter for climate change? This one could be quick if anyone has any thoughts on this one. Nobody in sustainability or environmental? No? Okay. Yep.
Well, I think something obviously is key issue with this question and the previous one is accessibility. So obviously what's good about Taipei is how accessible it is for everyone, be that, or from what I've experienced anyway, in Taipei City and New Taipei. So when we're looking at climate change, it's really easy to get people to follow initiatives and use public transport and other forms and methods to prevent climate change.
Great answer. Anybody else want to chime in on this one? No? No, climate change tends to be the one that very few people want to talk about, even though it's going to impact us so much over the next 10 years. And for anyone that's on the younger side, when we have kids, it's not going to be something that their generation is going to take care of. It's them. And we're starting to get older. We're going to start taking positions of power and leadership. We really should be talking about this more. We're seeing a lot more in places like California, where almost every year that I've worked in San Francisco, there's a week of work that's just canceled. And it's because it's raining ashes. The wildfires in California and Australia, they've been getting worse and worse every year. And as somebody that had to evacuate their house in the past because of a wildfire, you're thinking that you might lose everything. It's a really big deal, climate change. So anyway, let's go to the next slide. And just understand the importance of transport to climate change. That 53.4% of global oil consumption is from transport industry. And if you look at Taiwan, next, it's about 15% of emissions or energy consumption in Taiwan is from the transport sector. And that doesn't include the manufacture of all the scooters and mopeds and cars. This is just from the energy consumption of vehicles. Next. And so this is from the Ministry of Transportation and Communication. And their goal is to reduce transportation emissions from 5% of 1980 levels. And this chart shows that if you reduce emissions 5% of 1980 transportation level, you can get to this overall emission reduction. So it's not insignificant, and this is a pretty, I guess, low goal. But most government agencies will try to have a target that they can actually achieve. And then it's the same story in the European Union and the United States. It's 24.6 in the EU, and 29% in the United States, because in the US, a lot of our cities are very, very sprawled out. And so we're seeing a lot of the harmful effects of transportation-related emissions. So transportation matters to climate change because of that. If we can figure out ways to put more people in smaller spaces, we can significantly reduce these transportation emissions. All right, so this one, there will probably be a lot more people interested in this one. Why do you think Taipei's transportation system might matter for Taiwan's soft power? So in terms of perceptions internationally in Taiwan, how can transportation play a role in attracting people to move here or trying to learn from Taiwan's example, the hashtag Taiwan can help, right? So does anyone have thoughts on how transportation fits into all of this? I'll give people a second to think. All right, see someone in the back, sorry.
Just ease of living for expats and foreigners. It's better from their home cities. It makes a good view of Taiwan and of Taipei.
Yeah, is there anyone else over here?
I mean, just what you showed earlier on in the slides, just such a positive experience overall, right? And you know, people are saying, why is this not like this in my country where I'm from?
Anybody else? No wrong or right answers?
I think even the impression you get when any tourist or business person steps off the plane and they get options to commute. I mean, in New Zealand, there's only a bus, for instance. So whereas here, there's so many options getting to the airport to Taipei. So I think that in itself is a powerful soft power tool.
Great, yeah, it's about impressions too. When people land in Taiwan for the first time, it'll give an impression.
I mean, most people spend their lives working, and getting back and forth to work in a reasonable amount of time can make a big difference in terms of investment. I mean, everybody wonders going to Los Angeles, for example, you're going to sit on the road for 2 hours each way back and forth. It's a nightmare. So I think people take the country seriously when they know they can get things done in a reasonable amount of time.
It's a really good answer as well. Investment. A lot of companies like to choose cities, especially for their headquarters, that have good public transportation. Like everyone remembers the debacle of Amazon and their competition to choose an HQ. They just ended up choosing New York City. You didn't need a competition to decide that. Like, you know, we know that New York City has great transportation and it's our economic and cultural capital of the United States. But they, you know, a lot of cities try to become that next HQ. Had a lot of good cultural factors for them, but they all had no transportation system. So a company like Amazon has 30,000 employees. How are they going to make that work, right?
A real example from the city government is like another country can actually reach out to Taiwan, to Taipei, to have somebody like, you know, experts in the transportation system, people from the Department of Transportation, go over to their country and teach their local authorities how to implement better practices. And we actually have had people, I'm not gonna say from my country, actually reach out to us and propose this idea. So yeah, that's soft power.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for listening to my presentation about transportation system that I love. It is one of my favorite transportation systems in the world in terms of its convenience, accessibility, reliability, ease of use, care, remember that. And I'm going to now hand this back over to Nathan. He's going to lead the discussion with you all on what you all think can be improved in Taipei's transportation system. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that. I really enjoyed learning more about the transportation system. I know myself, I've only been here about a month, so I don't know a huge amount so far about how everything functions, but it's certainly good to learn more. So now we're moving into the big part of the evening where we want to hear what you guys are thinking and what your experience is with Taipei as a whole. And seeing as we've started on transportation, I'm going to open the floor up now to discuss transportation and transportation issues specifically, especially if they pertain to your experience personally as a foreigner, but also just general issues as a whole that you've noticed that need to be addressed or fixed. Because I know I've noticed a couple in my brief time here that Alex briefly brought up with crossings, for example. And so yeah, I'd like to open the floor to anyone who'd like to give their thoughts on the matter.
Thank you, Nathan, and thanks again to Taipei City for hosting this. Selfishly, because I got to go soon, so I thought I would just put in my comment. The only comment I wanted to make was absolutely echo all the sentiments that were said about from Alex about the fantastic nature. In fact, the metro system, in my view, personal experience, is one of the best in Asia, easily. So that's so big ups to Taipei. The only thing was actually great to see the electric buses on the Heping along Heping Road. Would welcome more of that, and in fact that goes towards Taipei's relevance and soft power in the sense that it inspires economies like New Zealand to use more electric buses. The only thing from a personal perspective experience is bus drivers are sometimes drive pretty aggressively and drive in a way that forget that a lot of passengers are standing. So I think sort of a bit more safety around buses would be welcomed, but yeah, overall praise for Taipei. It's been a really good city to live in 5 years.
I don't know if this is going to get really Seinfeldian, but it may be a small nitpick, but to me it's important, is the maps that are in the MRT stations. They're always, or I don't know what the term for this is, but they're always oriented towards the direction you're facing. And that might be, I'm wondering what Alex's opinion is on that, because I think it's very important. I mean, it might be intuitive or easier to use if you're outside, right where you're going to be going.
Do you look at maps like this?
No, I
Because whenever I'm in the MRT and north is on the left, I have to look at it like this before I can understand. That'd be nuts.
Because usually, I'm just kind of linking that to my cell phone and the difference between them. And okay, I remember that from the cell phone, but now you're right. You got to kind of turn around. So, because I'm just interested in that design choice, but that's something I think could be improved in an otherwise extremely well designed system.
Alex, do you have a comment on that point?
That was a mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much. From my personal experience, the most annoying thing living in Taipei is what Alex mentioned, is the noise pollution. I think personally that the noise pollution mostly comes from the scooters, and this leads me to a conclusion. I mean, to a question actually: why so few people in Taiwan use electric scooters? And definitely the vast majority of scooters in the city are still traditional scooters with combustion engines. And currently we are in a transformation from into the electric cars, electric scooters. There are already cities in China where you have only electric scooters. The traditional scooters are forbidden. So I know that Taiwan has a great technology with Gogoro developing the new brand of scooters. So that's I know it's probably beyond the Taipei City Government scope of responsibilities, but this would greatly improve the quality of life in the city if more people would be using electric scooters, which are much more quiet rather than traditional scooters.
Thank you very much. I think I agree. I think one thing I've noticed is there isn't any like electric charging points like anywhere in the city, and if we're aiming to be more renewable and climate like saving the environment and stuff like that, there does need to be more electric charging points. Even and that I suppose would help encourage people to use scooters as well.
Perhaps it could be something like a U-bike system just for electric scooters.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an idea for the future to develop.
It's not a bad idea.
I've got a pretty simple point. I mean, what they did in London when they get heat waves, which is about 25 degrees, is that you're allowed to drink water. Just no other liquids are allowed, obviously, but I think like being allowed to drink water on the buses or the MRT. Thank you very much. You like water too. So yeah, just for like pregnant women, elderly people, toddlers as well. I mean, probably for toddlers, maybe milk should be allowed as well. I think Taipei's got the best sort of etiquette. Like as a Brit, I love queuing and I'd love to see. Yeah, and like I think water will be just like that's pretty simple. It's so hot in the summers here. I think I'd like to hear Alex has got stats of people, I don't know, fainting or getting super dehydrated on public transport. That's just a simple thing.
Yeah, I've noticed you have to be really careful with metro systems around the world. I almost got fined in Singapore because I started eating on a metro platform. That's a no-go.
I'll say that although I most of the time find the design of the MRT stations aesthetically not offensive, I sometimes question some of the public art choices.
Yeah.
Like.
Kuanting Station, for example.
I don't think that's execution. What's execution?
Yeah, hanging surreal, very childlike sculptures.
I see. See sometime.
My comment would be as an extension, I guess, of public transportation. I'm a frequent cyclist, but I don't use U-bike. But I guess anything to improve driver awareness or respect for cyclists would be amazing. You know, the MRT is full of videos showing you how to behave on the MRT, and there's posters and everything, and on the buses as well. And I don't know where these videos go, or I don't know what the media is. Maybe, I mean, of course, as we all do when we're drivers, when we get frustrated, we wish that maybe a certain law would be enforced. And in Taiwan, the traffic laws are so rarely enforced that as a cyclist, I feel like I'm the most vulnerable, obviously, but also maybe the most abused person on the road. The bus drivers drive like assholes, right? They will bury you into the curb, right? People don't look in their mirrors behind them, and people don't too frequently don't use turn signals and things like that. So, you know, like I think maybe not just awareness. I would say go beyond. The message should be that a cyclist on the road is the same as a car, and people, you know, drivers here just don't think that way. And I understand that's the driving culture. However, the gap is about education. Tell people that, and if there are accidents involving a motorized vehicle versus a bicycle, the penalties should be significant. So even if we can't get the police to give more tickets or do something to enforce things that protect cyclists, that kind of word of mouth gets out as well. You know, I know that people took notice a few years ago when it became illegal to smoke and drive your scooter. And there was big news around how much that ticket was. And again, not enforced now. We can all walk out to Fuxing Road and see it happening right now. But, you know, it does get people's attention to some degree. And so as a cyclist, you know, there's just it feels like there's no protection for you. You know, people, as a pedestrian, for sure. You know, like I was on my scooter today, and in the bike lane of a crosswalk, I stopped behind the bike lane so that the bikes could go through. And I looked to my right to check where the pedestrians were, and there's two people on scooters behind me in the bike lane and encroaching on the pedestrians crossing the crosswalk. Like, the amount of people who are in a rush to get to the next goddamn red light in this city is unreal. It's like, how can there be more respect for pedestrians, like, crossing the street? It's ridiculous. Like, every time one out of every 5 times you cross the crosswalk, you could probably touch a scooter or car that has cut you off or is going behind you because they just cannot wait to go to the next block. I don't know. Sorry, this is very long ramble.
I want to answer that actually. I got more for that. I agree with everything you said, but recently I also saw a video on YouTube that I hadn't come across before, and it was an advertisement from the Ministry of Transportation telling pedestrians that we have to be more careful when crossing the road because cars might not see us, which is just a lot of bullshit, really. The fact is that it should be the vehicle's responsibility to actually look where the fuck they're going. Excuse my language, sorry. And another New Zealander here, by the way. Basically that's it. So what's with the victim blaming culture telling us to be more careful? Tell the driver not to be a douchebag.
I definitely agree with these points about driver respect and safety. I've noticed the ads and stuff that you mentioned. They're in the Taipei City Government elevators every morning when you go up, and I'm really confused by them because naturally I'm thinking I shouldn't really be having to pay so much attention on a crosswalk because people should be stopping for me, but they don't.
They might use that as an excuse. Oh, I didn't see you. Bullshit, they saw you.
Yeah.
Like you're across the road with my dog or with my kids. It's dangerous, and it's my biggest anxiety about living in the city. I did get hit by a scooter last year as well, and I went to the police. And you know what the police said to me? Oh, your arm's a bit sore. You're not hurt enough. We're not going to do anything.
I've noticed as well on the scooter. Like every morning when I walk to work, the scooters will. Like if they're waiting at the red light, they'll just turn off onto the footpath, go around, and then go across the pedestrian crossing. And I'm like, that's not how you're meant to drive. And also often, I think I've almost been hit 3 times by cars on pedestrian crossings.
And it's worse in New Taipei.
Yeah, I haven't been to New Taipei yet, so.
It's way worse.
Yeah.
It's bad here, but it's worse there.
Okay. Any other issues?
Okay, thank you. I'm not complaining about the transportation system. I think it's good for me, but I'm complaining about the smoker in the bus stop. Because I remember that in the media, they already promote that for Taipei City Government already banned for the smoker or smoking in the bus stop. But lately and until right now, every day I'm taking the bus for maybe 2 to 3 times a day, and I saw like so many people like still smoking over there in the bus. So just concerned about this one. I know that in Taiwan they have the CCTV and everywhere, even in the bus stop. But until right now, there's still a lot of people that's smoking in the bus stop. So please take this concern about this issue.
Yeah, and smoking is a big threat. It's not just people who smoke, but everyone around them and their health as well. Yeah. As someone,
Hi. Well, I will bring out my German background and say that enforcement is definitely an issue. Like I have a 2-year-old toddler that I take often from daycare in the bus. I think that at least 50% of the times the bus goes full red in crossroad, no problem whatsoever. And that's one issue with the buses, but also with cyclists. Because I live in Kuanting, and the number of times that I was almost hit with my daughter by cyclists that goes everywhere. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a law about that as well. But obviously nobody enforces it. Most probably because there are not enough infrastructure, but still, enforcement is an issue. Another tiny thing is I've been living in Taipei for 5 years. First, living in Guangzhou, working in Nangang, now living in Kuanting, working in Tamsue. I think that the monthly card is amazing.
tiny bit too late, and I'm really looking forward to have an annual card as well, which will save a lot of money.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've learned a lot about transportation itself. So if we move on to another topic, if anyone, unless anyone has
one more thing,
sure.
really quick.
Sorry, I wanted to say something positive to like flip the narrative on my negative thing. I really like what Taipei City did with the Bayman area, removing that ghastly bridge. And I would love to see more public spaces opened up like that, particularly around the riverfront where I go for runs quite often. I run from my home in New Taipei all the way to Taipei City, and right now that space is shared with a lot of infrastructure, highways and bridges and scooter lanes, and it would be nice if more of those spaces opened up just for public use and less pollution. Yeah. Bayman's great.
Awesome. Good to have a bit of a positive note as well.
So thank you very much for your information, notes taken. It's nothing personal. They do the same thing to me when I was at work. So a lot of your suggestions we'll take back to the Taipei City Government, and I'll talk to the Division Chief of Transportation Department. We'll see what we can do. But improvement takes time, and we will try our best. And also, we have a Secretary General from New Power Party, so they also have 3 seats in the Parliament. They might be very helpful as well. If you have any questions, you can talk to me. And Professor, your problems and your problems, we can all do this together. So it's both partisan. So we could work this out together. And I would also like to thank Mira. So we know there are a lot of foreign communities, but sometimes we don't put a lot of focus on Southeast Asia. And Mira is from Indonesia, so is Professor He. He was the first Indonesian descendant who was running for legislator in Taipei. So thank you for coming as well. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and we'll see what we can do.
Awesome. Thanks, Kuanting. So yeah, continuing on to more discussion points, I suppose. Is there anything in particular that anyone has a issue with that they'd like to bring up, or something that's affecting them in particular? It can be to do with transportation, but it doesn't have to be. Any other issues people can think of?
I don't know if this has changed, but remember when all of the kind of online or digital payment systems came out, it seemed to be impossible to sign up as a foreigner, like the JCO Pay and things like this. I don't know if that's changed yet. Because as somebody that doesn't like using cash that much, and still primarily cash based market, it would be nice to use some of these apps. Yeah.
There's a lot of cash around, I've noticed as well. You have to carry so much all the time. My wallet's like always filled with coins. Like it's never not. Yeah, any other points?
This is more directed at Alex.
Alex, wait.
Hello. Hi. I was just wondering, because a lot of capital cities in the world have, say London's got an extended service at the weekend, especially for major lines, right? Especially like Fridays and Saturdays, and also since like Taoyuan is like the 5th busiest airport, would a 24-hour airport line be feasible? And what are the conditions that Taipei has to meet to extend the subway for an extra 6 hours, or to be fully 24 hours? Yeah.
So a lot of metro lines around the world get this question: why don't we run 24/7 service? Why is SFR not 24/7? Why is London Tube not 24/7? Although they just launched some 24/7 lines. And the main reason is we need those 3 to 4 hours to maintain the tracks and to do maintenance and make it safe. And if there's only enough track to run regular service. There isn't like an extra track like New York City where they run express. It's extremely hard to keep the system maintained and safe without those 3 hours every day. So the only way to run 24/7 service without running into that problem 5 years down the line would be to build a third track, so they could run service during maintenance, and that would cost tens of millions of dollars. So that's the main reason why metro systems don't. But 24/7 bus service exists. I think it's Kuanting, still runs the shuttle 24/7, and it's just because the alternative would be a huge capital works project where we could be spending that money on bus lanes or on existing new ones. It's a really good question, but unfortunately, the answer is not so easy.
Nothing to do with transportation, just something I saw in the newspaper today. Kaohsiung and Tainan are offering, it said in the paper, they're offering residents free alcohol and wipes from some special vending machines, which sounds like a really good initiative. But in fact, they don't offer it to residents, they offer it to citizens. Residents, I'm a resident, but I require a senpenzen to use these vending machines. This is one example. Taiwanese people think, oh yeah, just you don't need a senpenzen job. But actually, if you don't have an ID card, you're kind of screwed. And this happens again and again. It happens with online shopping. I have an APRC, I've been here 31 years, and I pay my taxes, but I don't get the same services that Taiwanese people do. It's something they could fix easily. Mostly, they're just not thinking about it. With the vending machines that are selling or giving away the free alcohol wipes, they require the ID because they want to limit the number of alcohol wipes and masks that they're going to give for free. That makes sense, but they shouldn't be saying they're giving it to residents for free. They're giving it to citizens for free. Anyhow, it's an ongoing thing that's been happening for a while.
Yeah, I suppose that also comes into the U-Bike debacle that happened like 3 months ago as well, not considering that people can't sign up if they don't have a card as well. Yeah. Anything else?
Sorry, this is not my issue, but I'm very curious about this issue because since we have many friends from Israel here, right? I wonder, can you get kosher food in Taiwan, in Taipei? Because I have many Muslim friends, sometimes they do complain about it's very difficult to have the halal certified food in Taiwan. But I think Taipei City Government is improving in terms of halal food certification. So how do you think about how do people from Israel? Do you think is it friendly to get kosher food in Taiwan? And do we have any kind of that kind of certificate of kosher food in Taipei? I'm just asking. I think we can make some suggestion to Taipei City Government.
Do you want to repeat your question? Oh, okay, sorry. Do you want to repeat your question?
I'm asking do we have a kosher food certificate in Taipei City? Oh, so it is friendly. It's not difficult to get.
There's a Habak organization. They have this kosher, certifications. Even inside their Habak synagogue, they have a kosher kitchen. They can produce.
In academia center? Where is it?
It's now they move to the new address. I forgot. I don't know what's the new address. They just build these new buildings. Jewish people in Taipei, they fund a lot of money to build this new synagogue.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Eduardo just told me the time is getting on, so we're going to move now to more casual networking. If you have any more issues, feel free to come up and speak to me. Me and Kuanting, we're both here to listen to anything you have to say. But yeah, we'll move into more discussion. Feel free to have more beer. I think there's still food at the back, so mingle around and you can grab anything you like. But yeah, if you have anything else, come speak to me on Kuanting, and feel free to enjoy everything. Thank you.